This is The Roadmap with Ted Jenkin.
Hey everybody, this is Ted Jenkin and welcome to another episode of The Roadmap exclusively here on America's Small Business Network. You ought to download it, tell your friends. I mean, the shows are great. Every week we bring in some of the brightest and best CEOs and entrepreneurs and business owners all around the country because people always wonder, how do I start a business? How do I scale a business? And maybe one day I can exit stage left. You never know, pull that slot machine and hit all sevens on it today. I'm really excited to have Nichols on today. She's the CEO of Chémin. And I was excited to do this interview and I really love your story. Now, the way that I read this, and tell me if this is true, is that, you would have this routine that you would go through and you would light a candle while you go through your routine. And the start of this actually was the candle got discontinued.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. I always tell people that I'm an accidental entrepreneur. Like, seriously. I started this company because I had a need, and my need was to create a candle that was somewhat like the candle that I had been using for my meditation. I had never intended on creating the company that we see today. It was all because I have fragrance aversion, and I could not.
Is that a thing? It's a thing. Fragrance aversion is a thing.
It is really a thing, and most people say, how are you a perfumer and you have fragrance aversion? Like, what is that all about? But it's true. I have fragrance sensitivities. I sneeze, get headaches, start, breaking out in hives if certain icky stuff is inside of your fragrances. So I couldn't find a replacement, so I made one.
So what did you do? You literally set up in your kitchen and you just started testing out formulas to make a candle that was somewhat like the candle that you were using?
Absolutely. I started out as something that I always call the people who I now teach a kitchen bandit. We call each other kitchen bandit. Literally, I got in there, I pulled a tumbler out of my kitchen cabinet, began to play around with waxes, different kinds of waxes and wicks, and then began to really lean into this artistry of fragrance formulation, which is quite complex. It's not as easy as most people think. You can't just shake a little bit here, put a dash here. It's not like you're cooking eggs, spray a little bit here. There's really a science to it. There's really formulas that we have to follow.
You didn't have like a chemistry background
I was an English major and I was a teacher. I was an educator right in DeKalb County school system for many, many years, and that's my background. So one of the things that absolutely is a part of who I am is this idea of learning, continuous learning, always growing. And then also, I'm that person, if I can't find what I need, I believe in building it, like creating it. And that's the reason why
So did you sell the first candles or you were just a user of the candle?
I was giving them away because my friends were like, it smells so good in here. And I was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I had no idea what they were talking about until one day one walked over to my altar and she was like, it's this. This is what smells so good. And I was like, my meditation candle. I was looking crazy. I was just like, you got to be kidding me. She's like, no, it smells good. I want one. So I started giving the candles away as gifts. I was not even thinking about selling the candles, but people were saying how wonderful they smelled and that they wanted them. And then finally I said, wait a minute. Y'all gonna have to buy these candles. Y'all got me in here cooking, like, in the kitchen with my double boiler and all that. I said, y'all got to buy them. And they started buying them.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. And so finally one day, Robin, who's now our COO, yes, I have to shout Robin out, she says to me, there's a Pinterest conference that's going on in Atlanta. We should take your candles to the conference. You say that we buy them because all the people, love you. Right. But we really believe you have something good.
They love the product.
They love the product. And so I was like, okay. So by that time, I had really started leaning into the artistry and the science behind formulation. I understood that, there was a balance, a careful balance, that if you put too much of something, it would overpower or it could spoil the whole batch. And so I really began to lean into the science of it and how it's truly supposed to be done.
So when did you make that switch? Did you make multiple versions of the candles, or after the candle, did you adopt the first fragrance and say, I'm going to turn this into an actual fragrance?
It was a process. It took several iterations before I finally got to a formulation that was balanced, and I felt like it had the scent throw that I needed it to have, because one of the beautiful qualities of the candle that got discontinued was that it filled the room, and I wanted my candles to be able to fill the room with the aroma, and that's an art. Turns out making candles isn't as easy as I thought they were, but as you continue to practice, you continue to study, you continue to grow, you become very, very good at the Chandler process.
When did you, I want to get back into the process. I mean, I think what's interesting, will be interesting to most business owners, is that, so you're gifting these things away, and then you actually start selling some friends. When did it dawn on you, like, I've got a business, like, I've got taxes to do now, I got to set up a...
It was late in the game, to be honest. I told you it was accidental, Ted. I said to you, it was late in the game. So it wasn't until we got ready to go to Pinterest, the conference, that I began to realize, okay, wait, I can't just go here with candles. Like, I got to have a register. Like, we got to have a process. How do you bring people up? You mean you got to bag this up and give it? So, but in addition to that, I said, you know, I had been practicing and playing with these scrubs and butters and all of these natural products. And so I came up with this cute little process where you would pick one of our natural bases. It could be a butter, a scrub, oil. You pick a fragrance, mix it together, and we create a custom fragrance for you right on the spot. It could be a fragrance product right on the spot. It could be a butter, oil, scrub. And so we were supposed to be at Pinterest Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
In Atlanta.
In Atlanta. By midday on Saturday, we had sold out of everything except for a scrub.
At the show.
At the show. And so at that point, I'm like, okay. So I realized in that moment, wait a minute, this is something special. But one muse came up to me. We call our clients muses.
I like that.
One muse came up to me and she said, you know, I don't want a scrub or a butter. I want a fragrance. The company that made my fragrance discontinued the scent. So does that sound familiar?
Same story.
Same thing that happened to me had happened to her. And come to find out, it's the same thing that happens to many, many people.
That they like a cologne or a perfume and then it just goes out of stock.
And it just goes out of stock, or they can't find it, or they have sensitivities and they can't use certain ingredients. And so it dawned on me, wait a minute, you're solving a problem here. You're solving a problem for individuals who have sensitivities to some products and they want to, you know, have a say-so of what's in their products. You're solving this problem for people who fell in love with something. They kind of know the things about that fragrance that they loved, and they want to create something, you know, different, but that pulls them in the same way. And so it was in that moment that I realized, wait now, okay, you actually have a business. Like, this is a business. But the lady was just like, I want you to make me a fragrance. Back to Barbara. I'll never forget her. She was our guardian angel. I was like, we don't do that, Barbara. Barbara, that's not what we do.
It's not our business.
Barbara, that's not what we do. The process is you pick one of these bases, you pick one of these fragrances, we mix it together, and then you go. No perfume. Barbara looked me in my eyes and she said to me, listen, I'm not leaving until you make me a fragrance. You got oil here, you got fragrances here, mix them together. And I was looking at her and I was like, this woman is crazy. And so she says, I said, okay, what do you like to smell? And so I began to ask her all of the questions that are now a part of our custom fragrance.
Right. You've almost like an intake form.
Yeah, now a part of our intake form. And then she says, okay, now what are we gonna put in? I said, I told you this is not what we do. Like, I told you, I don't have bottles, I don't have labels. She's like, you gotta have something here. So she starts rummaging through my things and finds a tincture bottle and says, put it in this. And I'm like, okay. And so she asked me how much. I said, it's free. I told her it was free.
Just take it.
Just take it, because I was really trying to get her to go. I was just like, just get exit stage left. And this is what I wanted her to do. But she was like, it's not free. She said, it took your expertise. She said, it took your products. She said, do you think people are just out here making fragrances that smell like these, like amazing like these? And she kind of took me aback, because I hadn't thought about it like that. I hadn't realized that it truly was, you know, a gift. And the reason I wanted the candle was so that I continue to practice meditation, because it was a part of my routine. And I realized that the downloads were formulas. The fragrances were coming as a part of my downloads.
Wow.
I know.
How many fragrances now?
Oh my goodness. So we have a library of 450 notes and accords
Wow.
at our studio, which is here in Atlanta.
Wow.
But in our signature collection that we just launched, our affordable luxury collection we just launched in JCPenney.
Yeah, I saw there's 32 SKUs that are in there
There's
now?
32 SKUs,
Right.
but there are 5 fine fragrances. The rest of the SKUs that are with JCPenney are scrubs and butters and oils.
Oh, so you're selling multiple products.
Yes,
it isn't just the fragrances
it's not
that you're
just
selling.
the fragrances.
How does that work? And for people that may never get there, but
Mm-hmm.
some people want to, I mean, a big department store, retail, you know, everyone's been through that fragrance aisle where the women in the aisle, you know.
Yeah.
How do you get in there?
It's crazy. I mean, my path, I told you I'm an accidental entrepreneur.
Right,
so
right,
everything
right.
about my path has been organic. And I actually met the individuals who were the buyers and the VP of the buying team helping someone else.
Wow.
She was launching her, and it was Bossy Cosmetics, I'll go on and say, she was launching her cosmetics collection in the JCPenney stores here in Atlanta. She was new to the market. She was from LA, and so she didn't know anybody here in the Atlanta market. And so I'm a member of a women's group called The Lola, and we hosted a fireside chat. And
How
so
about that?
the founder asked me to do an interview with her so that, you know, people could get to know her in this market and we could begin to help her to break into the Atlanta market.
Wow.
And since I'm a founder of a beauty brand, fragrance is considered to be a part
Right.
of the beauty industry, she's like, you would be perfect to interview her. So I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Literally did the fireside chat with Aisha and did not realize that I was going to be meeting probably half of the executive team for JCPenney. They were like, wait a minute, so you're a founder of a fragrance collection, right? I was like, yes, I am. And of course, I had samples. You know, you don't go anywhere without
Wasn't like that first show.
Wasn't at that first show. So I had samples and I handed them to them. And next thing I know, I was having a meeting with the buying team, the fragrance buying team.
Wow.
I curated these amazing boxes that showed them the range, and I curated them based upon the likes of each individual that was on the team.
Did this change the backside of your operations now that you're in there because you have to?
Of course. I mean, it really did because we are small batch, handcrafted fragrance house.
Right.
And so we had to add human capital to our company in order to be able to, you know, meet the needs of our new
They
client.
sell it, you got to produce more.
You got to produce it. You have to be able to produce it. And so it has caused us to have to ramp up obviously really, really fast. And one of the things that's super important to me is maintaining the integrity of our products and our offerings. And the beautiful part about the partnership with JCPenney is that they understand. They understand that we are a company that's scaling to meet a very large, a retail giant's needs. And so it's been a beautiful partnership with them. But yeah, it was very organic how it happened. It wasn't like traditional people send, you know, the boxes to the buyers or they try to meet them out. It wasn't the traditional pathway. But what I learned from that is to be open to helping others, be open to being of service.
By helping that woman, you got...
By helping her, look what happened. And I tell entrepreneurs that I mentor and I talk to all the time, don't be so closed. Don't be so closed about, you know, what you're doing and, you know, your business and your gifts and your talents. Because when you help others, it always comes back.
How did you decide on the pricing? Because obviously in the fragrance market, you can go to a local drugstore like CVS and Walgreens, and obviously the fragrances there are just fine, but they're at a certain price point. And then you have companies like Creed that are at the it's super high for you know a small fragrance. How did you decide that?
So the beautiful part about Chémin and the thing that separates us from most brands is that we have our own fragrance house. And so we have clients that come to us for their own custom formulations, okay? Which is the luxury side of our business.
It's really your own fragrance. You just can't get it anywhere.
Absolutely. But we also understand the need to be a part of the greater majority of our community, which is, you know, everybody. It doesn't just exist for the 1%.
Right.
We have all of the people who I consider to be middle America, and I consider myself to be a part of middle America still. As a business owner, you're growing and you're beginning to, move to different levels. But when you start, it's very much a ladder that you go through. And I wanted to make sure that luxury was accessible to everyone. And I believe that that is possible. Luxury doesn't have to be a $350 price tag on a bottle of fragrance.
Right.
You can get a luxurious fragrance with a price tag as low as $100 or $60 or $65. And so my goal was to make sure that luxury was accessible for all. And so that is why we created the affordable luxury collection that is now inside of JCPenney.
So as you build this company, one of the challenges a lot of owners have, and especially when you're an accidental entrepreneur, is you're not thinking about key employees and what you do with equity. And so how do you think about that now as you grow? Do I take capital?
Absolutely.
Do I allow people to participate in equity in the company?
Absolutely.
How do you try to frame that as a business owner?
Well, we're at that stage now, quite frankly. We're at that because of the partnership that we have with JCPenney. We are in the middle of a raise, and I don't mind saying that because we understand
you need the capital to grow.
We need the capital in order to continue to grow. And in order to make sure that we create efficiencies in our manufacturing process, we make sure that we create those standard operating procedures to make sure that every single bottle comes
100%.
out exactly the way that it should. And so when I think about that, I think about that in stages. I think about that in stair-stepping that process. We have so many different ways in our company that we earn because we have obviously a B2C relationship, but we also have a B2B relationship. A B2B relationship that's not only with major retailers, but we also support smaller entities who want to launch their own fragrance brands as well.
Sure.
And so the manufacturing aspect is critically important for us being able to make sure that we maintain a state-of-the-art manufacturing process for our products and for the products that we do for other people. And so scaling is critical in order to be able to do that.
Especially when you get this, like you're saying, the standard operating procedures.
Absolutely.
How do you see exiting this one day? Would you sell the brand to a big luxury brand or another company?
I absolutely feel like we will be acquired one day, and I'm absolutely open to that. I think that businesses and people, feel funny about this, especially in my community, but I believe that businesses are built to be sold.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's critically important that the right entity ends up being the person that acquires you, that those values seem to be the same and that they're deeply rooted in the industry that you are, in fact, operating in. And so I envision one day we probably will be.
It is tough to operate in any space like this just as an individual retailer. When you look at the wealthiest person in the world, Bernard Arnault, and you look at LVMH, but they're really,
he's on my map.
but it's a brand of brands, and they've done it, wonderfully in the way that they've carved that out. As have other brands over time. The Gap did it in a different way.
Absolutely.
So you look for somebody to acquire that way. I'm curious, just as we wrap up today, being a female entrepreneur, there are more and more women that you might have had corporate jobs and they're thinking about starting their own business, especially Black women that I think it's growing. That sector is growing tremendously.
Absolutely.
What advice would you have for them to say, you were accidentally into this, but why should they intentionally jump off to get into becoming an entrepreneur? Because we need more female entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I would say the best advice that I could give anyone that was desiring to be an entrepreneur or is desiring to be an entrepreneur is to keep going. To literally have faith in your vision,
right.
To literally have faith in the fact that you belong. If you can dream it, then you are intended to do it. And I think sometimes, in particular, women of color, Black women, we sometimes we have imposter syndrome, if you will.
Right.
And it is, we believe, they're doing it, what I'm doing might not be good enough, or I won't be accepted. And in fact, I had a little bit of that at the beginning. I was like, oh my goodness, how many women of color in fragrance? I was shrinking myself back. And then I said, you know what? No, I belong here. I deserve to be in this space. People of color deserve to see someone who looks like them making fragrances
100%.
and doing it well and being able to compete in a major industry. We deserve to be here. And so what I say to those people is go for it. But I also say, get yourself a good mentor. Try
Right.
to find someone who can help to coach you along the way. There's nothing wrong with being a student of your craft. And especially in this industry, you have to remain a student because things change all the time. We have regulations and guidelines and safety data sheets, and there's a correct way to do this. And so mentorship helps you to be able to bridge that gap and to shorten that timeline for you. It's something I wish I had, and it's something that I now do for those that are coming, behind me.
So folks that are watching the episode today, obviously they can go into JCPenney and not only see the 5, key fragrances, but how can they get a custom fragrance? How can they learn more about what you build? It's so amazing.
Well, they can always follow us on Instagram. We hang out over there at Maison Chémin, and you can always find us online at www.maisonchemin.com. But we also have a studio. If you're in the Atlanta area, come and see us. We're by appointment only. It's a beautiful.
Where's the studio? Downtown?
It's in Midtown, actually.
Oh, Midtown.
If we're right near Sweetwater Brewery.
Oh, yeah,
so we're right in the mix of things, and it's an amazing space. People always come in, and we love to have visitors.
I love it. Listen, you just heard the whole story there. Sometimes accidentally, you might have an idea, and that may be the sign that it's your opportunity to get into entrepreneurship. And like November was talking about today, get a mentor, and not every city. We're lucky here in Atlanta that we have great centers for entrepreneurship. You may have one in your city, but be around people that have that common energy. I've always found being around entrepreneurs can help you build your entrepreneurial journey. I'm Ted Jenkins. This is this episode of The Roadmap. I look forward to seeing you next week right here exclusively on America's Small Business Network.
Thanks for watching The Roadmap with Ted Jenkins.